All right, so Health at Every Size. This is a curriculum that is sponsored by three organizations: the Association for Size, Diversity, and Health, Society of, of Nutrition Education and Behavior, and the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance. Now, this last one isn't about saying that we need to give up on this desire to lose weight. This last organization, the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance, is more about fat shaming. Okay, so I don't know about you guys, but I have experienced quite a bit of fat shaming, and I'm quite tired of it. Okay, so, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to click that. My cursor is invisible on my screen, just so that you know. So today we're going to be talking about an approach to health and wellness that may be very different from what you've heard in the media or in previous courses. The topic of body weight can be a sensitive topic for many. It's a sensitive topic for myself. So it's important to keep in mind as we discuss weight and health. We all see the world through a different pair of lenses. This is based on our own personal experiences. Okay. So the way that we all view each other is different based on our own life experiences. And today we'll start with a look at the basics. All right. So kind of like this. Have you ever done this? It says, if I gain 20 pounds, it will give me the motivation I need to stick to my diet. You ever felt that way? Okay, so the public is very confused when it comes to weight and health. When individuals focus on losing weight, it can result in an interesting head game, which is represented by this cartoon. Okay, I like to tell people that, the moment that you tell yourself that you're going on a diet and you list off this list of foods, there's like this terrible 2-year-old that comes out, hands on hips, with this attitude of, you want to bet? And that's when that fight begins. So Health at Every Size is about taking the focus off of weight, and in doing so, ending the head game that is common with dieting. This non-diet paradigm is about focusing on health instead of weight. So throughout this presentation, I'll be referring to Health at Every Size by using the acronym of Haes. Both Haes and Health at Every Size are trademark terms, and they were trademarked by the Association for Size, Diversity, and Health, which is an organization that promotes taking a non-diet approach to wellness simply because dieting doesn't work. So the Haes paradigm is about paying attention to hunger and fullness cues. Okay, so we're going to be honoring our bodies here. If you have ever had someone tell you, well, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, is that true? The truth is that if we wake up and we're not hungry, but we feed ourselves anyway, we have just dishonored our body. The body is telling us when it's not hungry, I don't need food, I'm okay. But we have fed ourselves because we are listening to what everyone has told us, and it may not be true. So I'm giving you permission. If you wake up and you're not hungry, you don't need to have breakfast until you feel hungry. So instead of counting calories or fat grams, we're going to find pleasure in food and satisfying cravings, and trusting that your body naturally craves a variety of foods. And it does. If you've ever dealt with a toddler, you have experienced them having a day where all they want is bananas. You can't get them full on bananas. You can't get them to eat anything else. All they want is bananas. And the next day, all they want are crackers. And you're not going to be able to get them full on crackers. They're eating you out of house and home on the crackers, but all they want are crackers. And so the next day, maybe it's all that they want are peas, and you can't get them to eat anything else. So by the time that the week has progressed, we've actually had a balanced diet. It just hasn't happened all in one day. The Haes paradigm is also about movement, being active, not to lose weight, but because it feels good and has many positive health benefits, and we all know that. In taking the focus off of weight, this paradigm involves promoting a positive body image and seeing weight and body shape or size as another key component to diversity. We are all different people. Okay, so we're going to be exploring the Haes paradigm. And we're going to start by defining weight and health. So when we look at messages about health in the media, the focus is always on weight, okay? They're always telling us that thin equals healthy, fat equals unhealthy. If we eat better, we will be healthier, and if we exercise more, we will be healthier. This past Sunday, a gentleman at church shared with me a story of a young man, 49 years old, who died of a massive heart attack suddenly. A young man who ate primarily fruits and vegetables and was a runner. Okay, so we all know people where we can challenge this thought processes that health depends on weight. But health is about more than weight, and health is about more than diet and exercise. There is far more to it than that. So there are many components of health that do not include diet and exercise. For example, you might be following the paleo diet and exercising and overall eating nutrient-dense foods. However, you might be feeling really stressed out and deprived in trying to follow the diet. So is it really healthy? So maintaining health involves balancing each of these areas that you see here on the screen. You have to balance your diet, movement, your emotional state, social. So do you hang out with friends, or do you avoid social events because you're afraid that you're going to overeat? It also includes a balance spiritually, intellectually, environmentally, and occupationally. So there are limits of lifestyle change on health. For example, an individual could have the perfect diet and exercise patterns, but still get diagnosed with breast cancer. It's absolutely true. And all of us know someone like this. While all of these things are important, an individual's health also has to do with factors such as genetics, access to healthcare, and social equality. Okay, the things that nobody really talks about. All right, so let's talk about the body mass index. And just so you know, if you guys are asking any questions, I can't see the chat window right now, so I'm sorry. It's just the nature of Zoom. All right, so let's define weight and health. We have already defined health, so how about weight? What does it mean exactly to be overweight or obese? Well, overweight and obesity are categories used to label weight relative to height. Okay? So the BMI is used to categorize individuals into one of four primary categories. You're either underweight, normal, overweight, or obese. Now, what are the limitations of using the BMI to assess health? Well, it doesn't take into account muscle versus fat mass. It can't measure all of those things out. Not to mention the fact that the information used to create this chart was fed to the scientists from the pharmaceutical companies. Okay? That is information that I discovered reading the book by Linda Bacon called Body Respect. And it's a really good book and very eye-opening. The other statement she makes in there is that the BMI chart for children, those numbers were virtually made up, which makes it extremely dangerous to use the BMI charts with a child. So now that we have discussed definitions of health and weight, we're going to take a look at health and how it has changed over time. So, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, we are in the midst of an obesity epidemic. While there have been some increases of weight over the last 40 years, it does appear that this rise has begun leveling off in the last decade, as according to this chart here. Furthermore, some of the increases in weight can be explained by adjustments that were made to the categories of the BMI along the way. Specifically, in 1998, the BMI that labels someone as overweight was lowered, impacting the percentage of individuals categorized as overweight. This is actually happening again right now, ladies. We actually have in the fashion industry, they are redefining weight. And so they are saying that their models, if they are a size 12 or larger, they are overweight or obese. And that impacts all of us. So let's look at this graph. And some of these graphs are kind of hard to really tell what it is that they're looking at. But this graph provides evidence that based on BMI, there has been a leveling off in recent years. There has been a slight increase in what is labeled the morbid obesity category in males, but relatively stable in other categories for both males and females. Look at this. The lines are almost completely straight. Okay, so do we have an epidemic still going on? But despite this leveling off, the CDC still says that overweight and obesity is on the rise. So let's look at the associations between weight and height. Despite the leveling off of weight in recent years, serious language has been used to scare the public into trying to lose weight. We have declared war on obesity. They tell us there's an obesity plague in America that costs the nation as much as $147 billion and an untold number of lives every year. Okay, this was a statement made on CNN's One Nation Overweight. So terms such as declared war and obesity plague or obesity epidemic have been used. Statisticians and economists have attempted to put a price tag on this epidemic based on statistical associations between weight and health. So we've all heard that obesity is associated with many serious diseases, including heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, and certain types of cancers. And these are some of the leading causes and are the leading causes of preventable death, they tell us. So here's when it says diabetes has increased dramatically over the past 20 years. That proves that diabetes is caused by global warming. Okay, so we hear that and we go, oh my gosh, well, no, that's a stupid statement. And yet, that's pretty much what we are being told. In order to understand the real story behind the obesity epidemic, you have to first understand the difference between association or correlation and causation. So we know that global warming does not cause diabetes. Okay? But these are some things that they're trying to put together in regards to weight and our health. So a correlation simply means there is a connection between two or more things. So male pattern baldness is correlated to heart disease, but it doesn't mean that male pattern baldness causes heart disease. Okay, so just to, the correlation just implies that there's simply a connection. All right. So it doesn't mean that that it's caused by that. So once we determine those things, we have to look at those things. We can't just assume that somebody eats sugar, therefore they're fat, or somebody eats fat, therefore they're going to be fat. We can't make those statements. When the CDC uses the term obesity-related conditions, okay, we could substitute the term correlated or associated for the word related. Obesity doesn't cause these conditions of heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, or certain types of cancer. And it's not necessarily causing things that are among the leading causes of preventable death. Okay, so we have to know, are we looking at correlation or causation? The problem with making association between weight and health is that there are often other factors that could contribute to the disease, with weight being only one of them. Okay, so you have all of these things, and epidemiological studies don't typically control for fitness or activity, nutrient intake, socioeconomic status, body image. So, how do you feel about yourself? Weight cycling, which is associated with inflammation, hypertension, insulin resistance, hyperlipidemia. So, weight cycling is yo yo dieting. It's where you lose the weight and then it comes back on. Let's look at this People magazine of Paula Deen. She was diagnosed with diabetes, and then 4 things happened. 1, she received medical care. 2, she doubled up on veggies and began using healthier cooking methods. 3, she began walking every day, and she lost 30 pounds in the process. So her diabetes improved and she feels great, but why? Well, we don't know if any of these, which 4 was the one that caused her to feel great and her diabetes to improve. It could be any number of those. But if you're going to look at correlation, we might as well look at this graph. If obesity is killing us, then why is life expectancy on the rise? Isn't that a great question? Of course, there have been many advances in medicine that has resulted in increased life expectancy. But this graph suggests that obesity is not the killer that media suggests. In fact, if you look at the BMI and life expectancy, it turns out that the lowest incidence of death is actually in the overweight and obese categories. I'm just going to give it a moment for that to soak in. Okay, so BMI between 25 and 35 has the lowest incidence of early death. So now we're going to look at the drawbacks of dieting, which you guys already know. Okay, you guys already know this. Okay, so there's different determinants of weight. There's genetics, there's diseases and drugs, and there's our environment. So there's always this great discussion about the cause of the increase of weight that happened in the 1980s and 1990s. There's a general consensus that all 3 of these factors played a role in determining weight. However, since we can't do much about genetics, diseases, and drugs, the finger gets pointed at environment, specifically calories consumed and calories burned. That's where this calories in versus calories out comes from. So we're making some assumptions here. However, it's much more complex than that. When people go on a diet to try to lose weight, their body actually has physiologic mechanisms to fight back in order to survive starvation or famine. So this is why the tagline for this course is work with your body instead of against it. Okay? So when we cut back our calories and we increase our movement, our body's going, wait a second, I can't do this. It's kind of like going for a trip across country and filling the tank of your car halfway, but expecting it to go the distance. It's not going to happen. It's eventually going to stall. Guess what? Guess what your body does when you do not give it enough calories? It stalls. This is where fatigue comes in. This is where you don't want to clean your house anymore. You don't want to do anything but sit around and watch TV. You don't have the energy. It's because you don't have calories coming in. So we're going to get this changed. While weight may come off when an individual starts dieting, weight is almost always regained over time. Here's another book title for you to write down. This is Lessons. I always get this wrong. That's why I'm thinking. I'm going to tell you it's Lessons from the Food Lab, but I'm feeling like it's not Lessons from Secrets. It's that. Secrets from the Food Lab. And in this book, they talk about the fact that when we go on a diet and we lose weight and we get down to our quote unquote goal weight, we must maintain that weight for 6 years or longer before we can say that that diet worked. 6 years. Ever heard that number before? Because I haven't. Okay. 95% of people who go on a diet today will lose weight and then regain it. 95%. It's a 95% failure rate. And yet, how many people will start Monday on a new diet? We all know what the definition of insanity is, right? So let's get off the cycle. We're going to break it. All right. Every time I go on a diet, I lose my mind. Unfortunately, it doesn't weigh very much. We all understand this too, don't we? Okay. It's absolutely insane, the mind games that start to happen. Like I said, you give yourself that list of foods. Nope, I'm not going to eat these anymore. And you post them somewhere so everybody knows you can't have these foods. Help me stay away from them. And that terrible 2-year-old comes out in your mind and says, you want to bet? And at every turn, every single turn, you have that craving, until you finally can't fight it anymore. And you give up and you binge. And then you become depressed. We just go into this cycle. We want to get out of it. So what are the diets that you have heard of? I'm sure that you guys are going to be familiar with probably all of these, okay? So we have Atkins, Hampton's Diet, South Beach, Biggest Loser Club, Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, Skinny, I'm not going to say that one, Skinny Witch, the Paleo Diet, the Ultimate Tea Diet, Nutrisystem, Green Tea Fat Burner, Nutrislim, Slim Fast Optima, Acai Berry, okay, the Italian diet, right? And Ally, and everything else that's out there, okay? Trim Healthy Mama. I know, people are saying, but Angie, it's a lifestyle change. No, it's not, okay? Any book that gives you food lists and gives you rules, that right there is a diet. And I don't do diets anymore. So let's look at what dieting means. This is very important. When we talk about dieting, we aren't just talking about the fad diets out there. The term dieting refers to any time an individual watches what they eat to lose weight. Have you ever said that? You're at a barbecue. Someone offers you a piece of cake. Oh no, that's okay. I'm watching what I eat. You are on a diet. And they'll ask you, oh, are you on a diet? And you'll say, no, I'm just watching what I eat. You're on a diet. Some people even use the term lifestyle change. Ladies, intuitive eating is the only lifestyle change, okay? It's going to help you get rid of everything that you've been doing with confidence, because you're going to know this isn't how a naturally thin person lives, all right? Even when the term dieting is replaced with lifestyle changes, it may still be a diet. Understand that. Again, look for rules. If there's rules, if someone tells you, oh, this is a lifestyle change and you can't have, and they list that off, it's a diet. So in this presentation, we're using the term dieting when we talk about any person who's trying to lose weight, no matter the method. All right. So this isn't for losing weight. Weight loss will happen. Okay. But that's not your primary goal. Your primary goal with this is wellness. All right. So the dieting industry is a booming business. $61 billion a year is what we pipe in to this business. And it's time to save some money.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Tribbley. Did you know that dieting can actually cause you to gain more weight, become obsessed with food, and increase the risk of binge eating? It does! Most people don't know this. I wish there was a public health announcement saying, warning, dieting can hurt your health. Since there is no announcement, I created this video and I hope it really helps you. And the study that really blew me away was published just last year. Looked at twins, 2,000 pairs, 4,000 people, to ask this question: does dieting independent of genetics cause weight gain. Because they were thinking, well, maybe people who go on diets gain more weight in the long run is because they're genetically predisposed. So, fair question. So they followed these twins for about 5 years, and here's what they found, is that dieting independent of genetics was significantly related to weight gain, and it was dose responsive, meaning the more a twin dieted, the more likely they would be weighing even more than their counterpart who didn't diet. Now, isn't that depressing? It's like, yeah, we got to get the word out. And so the researchers even concluded that dieting in part may actually be responsible for the current obesity epidemic. It's creating the problem. Let's take a look at some other issues. It affects kids. Here's what's driving me nuts about this, is there is so much pressure on parents about the war on obesity. And what's a parent to do? And so they're going to do something. They're scared. They don't want their kids to, be obese and have all the health rates that are talked about in all these public health campaigns. And yet there's a lot of research on kids and dieting. And here's what we know. This one study looked at 17,000 kids from the ages of 9 to 14, and here's what they found, that those kids who were dieting were 8 to 12 times more likely to engage in binge eating compared to those who never ever dieted. 17,000 kids. These scientists also said it looks like dieting is a predictor of weight gain. What about teens? This study blew me away because they looked at teens all the way through young adulthood. For 10 years, they followed them. They looked at their dieting history, what they did, what happened afterwards, what happened to their weight. Sadly, over half of the girls were dieting, and 25% of the boys were dieting. And what they found out is dieting predicted more weight gain and binge eating. So when we look at the kids, we look at the teens, we look at the twins, and now how about the adults? There was a scientific review in which they looked at over 30 studies on dieting and weight loss, dieting, weight loss, dieting, weight gain. You get the idea. And what the researchers found was this, is that dieting predicted weight gain, binge eating, and eating disorders. And I will tell you, eating disorders especially is a very, very scary risk from dieting, especially for teens. A study looked at teens and dieting for over 3 years, and what they found is dieting was the single most predictive factor for developing an eating disorder. So look at all this. You can gain weight, you binge eat, increased risk of eating disorder. Who wants that? We gotta dump the dieting. It's not working. It'd be one thing if it was a pain in the patootie, but you felt better or you were healthier. But that's not what the research is showing. We got to do it differently. But what about you? Most patients that I work with will describe their first diet almost like a first love. It's a seduction. Weight comes off easily, effortlessly, and every diet thereafter, you keep wondering, why is it so hard to stay on the diet? Why is it that not only are you gaining the weight back, but you're ratcheting more and more and more? You might find that you're more preoccupied with food. You try to have more rules around eating. And what's so important to realize, this is not you. It is the process of dieting that creates this problem, and it is very hazardous to your health and your mind.
Diets don't work. Okay? We know that if diets worked, then Americans would be spending less money on dieting over time because it would actually be working. So in 2012, researchers at UCLA compiled the 20 best and longest weight loss studies and researched the changes in weight that occurred in these studies. Each of the 20 studies is represented on this graph by an open or closed circle. The closed circles represent studies with minimal dropout. Participants mostly stayed in the study for a long time. The open circles represent studies with significant dropout, so more than 20% of participants dropped out of the study. The circle size reflects how many subjects were in the study. So small circles mean small sample size, and large circles mean larger sample size. As you can see from this graph, in the shorter studies that only lasted 2 to 3 years, subjects typically lose between 0 and 5 kilograms, or up to 10 pounds. And the longer the study, the less likely the subjects keep the weight off. You can see the dots on the far right had significant dropout rates, and participants were able to keep the weight off at 8 to 10 years. Not only do diets not work, they also have many harmful side effects. So we have weight cycling, which I mentioned before. This is the yo-yo dieting. You lose weight, you regain it, and then some. You have weight cycling. The increased risk of osteoporosis, increased chronic physiological stress and cortisol production, increased anxiety about weight, eating disorder behaviors, weight gain, stigmatism, and discrimination against fat individuals. Okay, so ethics of weight-based approaches. If diets don't work and yo-yo dieting is associated with negative health, then should we be encouraging people to lose weight? Is it ethical? Okay, another comic strip here. I can't change my height. I can't change my eye color. I can't change the size of my feet. What makes you think I can change my weight? Isn't that how we feel? That's how I feel all the time. All right, so definition of health at every size. So we're going to talk about the non-diet approach. This is health at every size. Haes supports people in adopting healthy habits for the sake of health and well-being rather than weight control. So this is about wellness. Haes encourages eating in a flexible manner that values pleasure and honors internal cues of hunger, satiety, and appetite. So that boils down to, if you're not hungry, don't eat. If while you're eating, all of a sudden you're feeling like, oh, I'm feeling satisfied, then you stop eating. Okay. Finding the joy in moving one's body and becoming more physically vital, accepting and respecting the natural diversity of body sizes and shapes. So Haes is weight neutral. We encourage healthy habit and attitudes. Take the focus off of your weight. You have a scale, you're going to get rid of it. You're going to get rid of all your dieting tools. If you have a food journal, pitch it. If you are weighing and measuring your food, you're going to stop doing that. You don't need to weigh yourself either. Supporting people to feel good about themselves no matter the outcome. This isn't about the number on the scale. This is about you and about your health and your level of wellness. Okay, so the differences between dieting and non-dieting. All right, so the dieting paradigm aims for a certain weight. Non-dieting, the body will seek its natural weight when individuals eat in response to hunger cues. All right, where food is concerned, the non-dieting paradigm, all food is acceptable unless you have a medically proven allergy or sensitivity to something. Okay, and then you don't have to feel like you're depriving yourself of it. It's harmful to your body, therefore it's simpler to leave it alone. Quantity and quality are determined by responding to physical cues. So are you hungry? You're going to eat more, and you're going to discover what snack hunger feels like versus meal hunger. All right. We're going to aim to be more active in fun and enjoyable ways. We're not going to talk about, well, did you spend 30 minutes on your treadmill? No. Did you go out and have fun with your kids, your grandkids, neighbors? Did you go to a barbecue? Did you enjoy life? We're here to enjoy life. All right, so the research. We have 6 randomized controlled trials. They found improvements in physiological measures such as blood pressure and blood lipids, health behaviors, physical activity, eating disorder pathology. So as people took the diet out of it, these things just kind of fixed themselves. And then we have the psychosocial outcomes. So their mood was better, they had greater self-image and body image. No studies found adverse findings in the Haes non-diet group. Okay, so nobody got worse in anything. There was a 6-month randomized clinical trial where you had a Haes group versus a diet group. At the 2-year follow-up, okay, you had an average white obese female chronic dieters who were 30 to 45 years old. Okay, there were 39 in the group to start. So we had the diet group had calorie restriction and food diaries. They read food labels and fat grams. They had exchanges, benefits of exercise, encouraged to walk at certain intensity. The non-diet group body acceptance and self-worth, techniques to focus on internal cues versus external cues, nutrition, the effects of food choices on well-being, and their activity, they allowed them to enjoy their bodies. So just enjoy moving. What do you want to do? Just be active. So here were the results. Depression, body image, and self-esteem. For the diet group, there was no significant improvement at a 2-year follow-up. The non-diet group had a significant improvement after 2 years. Their lab work for the non-diet group, significant changes in total cholesterol, LDL, systolic blood pressure. Dropout rate. Look at that dropout rate. The diet group had a 41% dropout rate. The non-diet group, 8%. Okay, and how about their weight? The non-diet group maintained their weight. They didn't lose weight, but they didn't gain any either. They maintained it for 2 years. Okay, the diet group lost weight and then they gained. Common misconceptions. So we have some myths, and one of them is that health at every size message is that everyone is healthy regardless of weight, and that's not what this is at all. This is about approaching health and wellness from a logical and a truly healthy standpoint. Okay? Myth number 2, the health at every size message is that people shouldn't be concerned about nutrition and activity, and that's not right either. We will go through this, but when your eating is based on internal cues, certain foods make you feel good and others don't, and you learn what those are, and you follow what your body tells you. Myth 3, people who eat based on cravings will eat junk food all the time. That's not true either. It's the anticipation of dieting and guilt around eating that leads to feeling out of control around food. Okay? Humans crave variety. Your body's not going to allow you to just eat donuts 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. It just won't happen. So we look at this picture and we think to ourselves, who's healthier? Is it this fat girl that's walking, or is it this thin girl with a dog? Well, you can't really tell how healthy someone is by looking at them. Okay? And that's the point. We can't really tell how healthy someone is by looking at them. So here's the slide with the website links for the organizations that created this curriculum. And here's some book resources and our acknowledgments.